Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of What Has Changed Your Life. So many girls and women suffer from eating disorders, anorexia, binge eating, emotional eating. I know I was just talking in another interview about emotional eating, and I've done that, been there, done that. As a teenager, I was borderline anorexic, so I've been there. I know exactly what that's about. The list goes on and on. We can develop body dysmorphia, and our view of what we look like is changed, right? What we see in the mirror is not what we see in here. Today, my guest, Kim Basler, knows this all too well, as she's a survivor of eating disorders. She's also a fitness instructor like myself. And today we're going to talk about her journey to wellness on this episode of What Has Changed Your Life. Welcome, Kim. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Tracy, so much. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. It's going to be one that I know will be very beneficial for people to listen to.
Absolutely. And so helpful, because I want to be clear, anorexia, binge eating, emotional eating is not a teenager thing. It's any age thing.
Yes, and it does not discriminate. It can find its way into all different body types, all different social classes, and that's the thing. This is actually Eating Disorder Awareness Week. I'm not sure if you know that. So this timing of this conversation is extra fitting as well.
Very timely. And it also affects men.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it, but I've worked with male clients, and it's different how it impacts them and where it comes from. But absolutely, this is not just a female thing. I'll use that word. It will impact anyone because its roots don't come from the food. Its roots come from our belief systems and our emotions and how we feel about ourselves and all of that. So yeah.
Absolutely. So how old were you when you first started having eating disorder?
Yeah, I mean, and when I just want to be clear too, as we get into this, my eating disorder, thankfully, was a shorter phase, but I started dieting when I was 12 years old. I grew up in a household where my mother was a chronic dieter. She led a weight loss group. So even from my young age, before I went to school, I was attending weight loss meetings. So I very much grew up in an environment where calories were counted, food was weighed, bodies were weighed. It was what I knew to be true. And it's not surprising to me, at 12 years old, you're in that stage of your body changing with puberty and everything. And I know that if I look back, I always had self-worth, struggles and, comparing myself to other people and all of that. So that was already rooted in me from the beginning. And then at that age of 12 is when I decided that I was going to go on a diet. I put myself on it, and I just simply started to model the behaviors that I had witnessed in my home.
Right. You learned. Yeah. This is what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. Right? Especially as women, we know it's been taught to us and continued to be projected to us that beauty looks a certain way. And I look back, and I always like to claim and say that there's nothing wrong with any of our bodies. But truly, when I look back, I simply was just in a slightly larger frame than some of my friends, but we didn't know about that. We didn't know about body diversity. And so I just figured out that, this was what I was supposed to do, and that I had to control my appetite, and I had to control what I put in my mouth in order to be able to not let my body get bigger.
Yes. And that's the thing, right? It's interesting. I always find it fascinating. Somewhere along the line, somebody in the fashion industry decided women needed to look this way, right? And that became a standard, right? And then you get social media, and then you get now the designers make all these different clothes, like size 0. Seriously?
I know, it always makes me laugh.
what does that even mean? Right? And depending on where you go shopping, your clothes can be varying sizes. You can be a size 10 in one store and a size 14 in another store.
Absolutely. And so then, and even in the same store, things can change from one item to another, right? So no, it's not anything to do with the size. And I mean, you're talking about the fashion industry, but then we also have to talk about the medical profession and how we look at BMI and all of these tools that are being used and still
Yes.
being used to dictate what health looks like. And it's just not realistic. And it's never was,
No,
BMI was never intended for that in the first place. But that's what
no.
happens, right? When the people that are promoting health and wellness are coming from pharmaceutical companies and money and, you know, what we can do. So it's a very,
Yes.
it's a very complex thing. And I know for a fact that what you see in your home dictates. I mean, those formative years are very, very crucial
Yes.
because some people have grown up in really beautiful homes where food was just food. It was enjoyment. It was cooked. We sat around the table, and then some of us didn't have those same types of upbringing. So it
Right.
starts it for sure. Yeah. And then, of
Absolutely.
course, I found myself into the fitness industry. And then that takes off from there.
What do you teach in the fitness world?
Yeah, well, and right now, like obviously things changed with the pandemic. I was teaching for the largest exercise fitness club chain here in Canada. And I started teaching for them. Well, I was at a private club. I started teaching when I was 16 years old. I joined a gym when I was 14, started teaching at 16. And that really dictated my whole career. It took off from there. So, you know, I was a personal trainer. I was a team coach. Then I went into fitness leadership. So I was training other fitness instructors and doing the group fitness. And so I right now have my own space where I'm teaching from my home. So I have my online space. I've changed things a lot in my life as to where I want to go and what I want movement to feel like for me. But it will always be a part of my life. Moving my body is something that I absolutely love to do, but I just really inspire people to move their bodies in different ways now, and most importantly, for different reasons. So
yes. I love how you're saying move your body, because I think one of the biggest things is when people hear the word exercise, it's like,
yep.
Right? But when you talk about moving your body, it doesn't need to be hard.
Nope.
You don't need to be like, going to the gym and I'm going to lift these weights. And no, moving your body can be something simple as dancing in your living room when nobody's watching. That can be so much fun and so beneficial. So I
It's so
love how you're
freeing.
saying that.
Yeah, it's so freeing, right? Like we all have a lot of conditioning around that word exercise. When we think of exercise, we think of all the rules, we think of how hard it's supposed to be, we think of sweating, and a lot of women and men don't like to sweat. And bottom line is you do or you don't.
I do. I love sweat. I love sweat. But what I do when I teach my Kangoo Jumps classes, because it's a rebounding exercise, you do sweat more naturally because it's getting your lymphatic system going.
Yes.
And then you release all that. So that part I do like to sweat. I admit I like
absolutely. To sweat. And don't get me wrong. I always say sweating is like a bath for your insides, right? Like sweating. I think the key here is that movement counts. All forms of movement counts. So whether you're sweating or whether you're not, whether it's just, I don't even want to say just, whether you're just dancing in your kitchen for 5 minutes, and like that's the thing, is it's spontaneous. We're not doing it. I really want us to get to the point where we are moving our bodies for reasons other than intentional weight loss or intentional body transformation. Because if we can just move for all of the benefits, how good it feels. And that's why whatever we're doing for movement, it needs to feel good for the body. And it needs to bring us joy, because if we're enjoying what we're doing, then we're going to be more likely to want to do it again. And that's a big piece, right? Because not everybody's doing it, right? So how are we going to train? Because we all know the benefits. I think we all do know the benefits of movement / exercise. We all know the benefits of it, but why and how can we get more people moving? And I believe that that's the way to do it, is to let there be more freedom and flexibility with our choices.
Absolutely. Even if it's just like taking a hula hoop.
Yeah.
Right? You could do that. Or you could, there's so many different ways you can move your body and it be pleasurable and fun. Right? And that old adage of, you heard in the 70s and 80s, no pain, no gain. Hogwash.
That's
Hogwash.
That's right.
Right? Walking is a beautiful form
favorites.
of exercise movement. right? It's beautiful. It's wonderful. People are like, oh, I'm just walking. Never say just, first of all. You're moving your
Totally.
body and you're going. So fantastic.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, walking was one of the things that, when the pandemic came in, and I never was a fan of wintertime. And of course, we know what happened. And so I got myself out into the forest with my dog, and I love walking
Oh,
now
yeah. Yeah.
for so many reasons. But see, we can give ourselves the flexibility to do that though when we get to a place of acceptance in our bodies too. Because if we can get to a place of acceptance in our body, then it gives us more freedom to be able to go, what do I need today? Because not all days we're going to want to go and do the more challenging forms of movement. Some days we need something gentler. We need something a little softer. And that's the journey of intuitive movement. So here's another word, this intuitive movement. What does my body need today? We get there by giving ourselves the freedom to make choices and not do things for the outcome that we think we're supposed to get from it.
Right. Right. So how do we change this mindset of what our bodies are and accepting our bodies for what our body is?
That's a big question.
It is a loaded question.
I'm like, where do we start? I really believe it starts by us educating ourselves, because we only know what we know. And unfortunately, diet culture, and I will define diet culture as any of the industries that are making money off of us by preying on our insecurities, by preying on the diversity of all of our bodies. We have to educate ourselves, because we have all got a certain set of belief systems based on what health looks like, what beauty looks like. And so I look at it from an angle of starting to recognize that there are other movements and platforms out there to understand and get some more education. When I look at acceptance for me and how I've gotten here, I mean, my journey is a long one. I dieted for 30 years and, I weighed myself a lot. So I had a very skewed relationship with my body, and I didn't love my body, whether it was thin or not. I was very unhappy with it. So I really believe we start by coming to a place of accepting our body and knowing what our body has done for us, because our bodies do so much for us on the automatic that we don't even give time to appreciate what our bodies do for us. So
beating heart, breathing, brain function, kidneys,
healing sickness. I mean, it's ongoing, right?
Yes.
What's tricky for people is that, and I think it's important to talk about this, there are people that are in larger bodies that are being impacted, their health is being impacted by their body size. So because of what the doctors will say your body needs to be smaller, you are at risk. We are at risk. But what we know to be true through the research that I've done, we've got platforms like Health at Every Size. We can improve our health through behaviors. We can improve our health through behaviors, moving our bodies more, nourishing our bodies more, accepting the diversity of our bodies, because then that will improve the health of our bodies. Our bodies may change in their size. They may not. That's not up for us to decide. But what we can control is what we how we take care of our body.
Right.
It's the behavior
defining what health looks like. Right?
Yes.
100%. Defining it.
I say this to my clients all the time. I started with a new client this evening, and I said, we have to go, well, what is your ideal relationship with health? What does your ideal relationship with food look like? What do you want your health to look like? Because health is not just our physical body. Health is holistic. So I when it comes to our body, though, what we have to understand is that acceptance of our body, that's not an outside job. That's an inside job. That's a self-worth. That's a respecting who I am, knowing who I am, knowing at a core that we're all worthy and beautiful, and that we're not, in this world, unfortunately, I think it's very challenging to always love your body. So I don't think that that's a realistic goal, is to go after loving your body. But just recognizing there's a term that I love, which is body neutrality. And that is understanding that I am neutral with my body. I'm not trying for it to be good or bad. It is. This is my body, and these are the strengths and gifts that it has. But it seems to be the place that works best for people, because if I don't like my body, it's such a big jump and reach to try and actually learn to love it. So it's about learning how to respect it and, you know, be kinder to it in whatever ways that's going to look like for you,
right,
based on where you're at, because we can get people on one end of the scale who are binge eating and doing a lot of excessive emotional eating. And then we can have other people who go on restriction and control, and neither is good or bad. Like they're different ways that people are coping. Our relationships with food are the symptom to the problem. They are not the problem to be fixed. So we have to go,
you have to go deeper.
We do. We
have to go deeper and peel back those layers of an onion, as I was talking about before, peeling back those layers, figuring out what is the core reason why this is even happening. Sometimes it's about control. When our lives are so out of control, sometimes we need something to control, and food is one of the easiest ways to accomplish that. Right?
You said that so beautifully. Absolutely. That there's a reason why eating disorders show up at pivotal, challenging times in people's lives. Parents breaking up, kids going from grade school to high school, a loss of a loved one. These pivotal times where we are our emotions, and we don't know how to deal with them, to process them, to allow them to be safe. And you're absolutely right. And there's a reason why this pandemic has caused people to relapse with their eating disorders or go back in to diet to go back into diet mentality, right? Because we have to, at least I can control this when the rest of the world. That's why you speak about it so openly, because you're living it and you experience it. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm a nurse. I work in healthcare. I worked at my acute care hospital, and the stress was something I've never had in my whole career. And I've been nursing since the 90s. That's how old I am. And this was something like I'd never seen before. So at the beginning of the pandemic, for the first probably year, I totally every coping mechanism I had went out the window.
Or they went out the window, right? They were taken away from you too.
Yes, that's true too. Yeah, that's true as well. And so the stress, the hours, the whole kit and caboodle, I started going back to things that were easy and comfortable. And that was going back to my old coping mechanisms, which weren't serving me. And luckily, the one thing that never changed was I was still moving. I was still exercising, you know, and I was still doing the things that I loved when it came to movement. So still teaching my Canada jump, still teaching pound. And in a way that saved me, because eventually I went, wait a minute, what are you doing? Why are you eating a whole bag of chips? Like, what is happening here? You know, it was like a switch went on and I went, what's going on? You know, and then when I realized, and I said, okay, you need to deal with your emotions surrounding this whole thing, the fear, the anxiety, the stress, you know, the amount of death we were seeing was something like we've never seen before. So those things I needed to then figure out, okay, you need to do this in a healthy way. Go back to the basics, go back to looking at your feelings, figuring out how to cope in a more healthy way for you to go forward, because the train you're on needs to stop. You need to get off at the next station. So how are we going to do this in a more healthy way? And that's when I started rebuilding and looking at myself differently and my emotions and coping mechanisms. So yes, you're absolutely right. I've lived and breathed it for the last 2 years. And, you know, it's a hard journey looking at emotions.
Absolutely. And I really believe that healing is ongoing. And those of us that have, this is trauma that we're talking about. And,
absolutely.
And I think we really, this is why we absolutely need to give ourselves so much compassion and kindness and understanding as we go through this, because there's many things that will trigger it. And I mean, nobody was prepared. And I mean, I'm just going to say thank you to you for everything that you have done in our medical system. You're welcome. And it's very challenging. It's very stressful. It was very stressful. It was very emotional. And we can be so judgmental of ourselves and say, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. But whether somebody is experiencing what you experienced or whether they're dealing with any type of challenge, we always do the best we can with the tools that we have. And we're not always going to be able to show up. And, we're not always going to be able to show up and say, no, you shouldn't have the chips. You should have the salad or whatever. You come home sometimes and, we're doing the best that we can right now. But there does come a point, and you came to that point in your life where you said, this isn't working for me. This isn't who I always speak about it. I get a little spiritual here, but I always think about my higher self. Like, who am I? Where do I want to go here? This is not the life that I want to be living right now. How do I find those steps to be able to start to move myself to a place where I'm taking care of myself? And it doesn't mean that you have to go like, this is this all or nothing piece, right? We have to be able to meet ourselves and go, what can I do right now that's going to make today a little bit more manageable for me?
Exactly. Because you don't want your whole life to be around, okay, how many calories did I eat today? How many carbs, macros, micros, like all these things. It's enough to make your head spin. Really.
And it stole my life from me. It stole my whole, my eating disorder was through my high school years, but I literally wrote a post about this today. And I said, even in my 20s and my 30s, did I still always have purging as a possible tool that I could pull from? Those thoughts are still in your head on some level. I was thankful enough to be able to not go to that, but it was disordered. Everything I was doing was very disordered in nature. And those pressures, on top of all of the other pressures that came from the self-worth, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the comparison, all of that stuff eventually started to impact my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my children. I had to leave my career. I had to leave my career because of my mental health. So it's very damaging. And there is a place where we can find health, nourishment, take care of ourselves without needing to count everything. That's not what food was ever intended to be.
No, it was fuel. It was meant to just fuel the body for what it needed to move, to be able to, back in the, hundreds of years ago, hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? But we also know now too, I was just talking about this. I'm going to be speaking with Camp It Pro, Canadian Fitness Professionals. I'm going to be speaking in their nutrition conference. And we talked about this, that food is fuel. Yes, it is. But food is also a place where we bond and we connect with our families and culture. So
yes, that's true too.
It's all of that too. So I really believe that we can't just be like, food is fuel. Like, no, food is emotional too. Like we are emotional beings. So to think that we're going to eliminate all emotions when we eat is silly, and it doesn't have to be that way. Because so it's complex, but I think that's why we always have to know ourselves. There's some people that do well counting their points. Okay. Right. They count their points. It's not a big deal. They have freedom if they choose to. But then there's the other people that are very afraid of food, and they're going to live like this for the rest of their life. And I don't know. I just feel like that's very sad, to feel like you can't trust your body.
Trust yourself.
Well, and that's, right? and it's trusting ourselves, and it's also trusting our body will take care of us. Our body was born with the tools to tell us when we're hungry and when we're satisfied. Our bodies are brilliant. We have to be able to listen to them and slow ourselves down.
Yes, slow ourselves down for sure.
Big piece. Like,
huge.
If we slow down with food, Tracy, and we're not always trying to do everything and multitask everything, and just sat with food and ate it mindfully, it would change so many things.
And I'm going to add to that. I'm going to challenge people. When you're eating, I want you to put your fork down or spoon or whatever it is you're eating with it 3 times. Put it down, chew, look around, check out your surroundings, take in the smell, and then pick it up. And that's one way you can start slowing down today, this minute, next meal.
Absolutely. And I will give another tool before we even start to eat, and that is to sit down with your food and take some slow, deep breaths before you even start to consume. Because
Yes.
most of us are in a stress response most of the time, and we
Yes.
are running around, and we need to be
Yes.
able to sit down and take those slow, deep breaths. You can think of
Mm-hmm.
this for anybody that says a prayer before a meal. It's the same piece. You're slowing down, you're
Yep.
bringing your mindfulness and your presence to the meal, and then you're like, okay, I'm here now. This is a gift. We probably eat anywhere from 3 to 5 times a day. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is a gift where we're able to sit down and slow our lives down for the moment, and not feel like we
Yeah.
have to be looking at our phone or answering an email or racing to another event. But it's difficult. Like I always say, it's very difficult in this society because everybody's trying to make us do more.
Yes.
So it's not easy, but
Yes.
there are some meals that we absolutely can do that in. We can do that in our
Yeah.
breakfast. There's many places. So Tracy's challenging you to
Yes.
chew your food and put your fork down, and I'm going to say, how about we breathe a little bit more before we even start
Yep.
eating?
Well, there's actual science behind what you're saying.
Oh,
So
100%.
when we are in that stress response and our sympathetic nervous system is activated, and for most of us, we are in, chronic stress state, right? So when you are experiencing things like indigestion and stuff like that, it's because you're in that state. Your body can't digest properly when it's in a stress state
Mhm.
because of our primal, the way we were created, to, run away, fight, flight, freeze from a lion or tiger coming to eat us,
That's
right?
right.
So when we're in that stress state, our digestion actually turns off. And the reason is because we need to resource to our brain and to our legs and arms to get us out of that situation where we're going to be eaten. So how to get out of there to parasympathetic, where our digestion is actually better, our metabolism is increased, you actually burn fat better, is in the parasympathetic side of things, and that's your rest relaxation state. So absolutely, when you're sitting down for a meal and you're breathing or just, sitting calmly, perfect time to shut that sympathetic nervous system off, get your parasympathetic going, and then you can digest. So indigestion, all of those things are decreased when you do that.
Absolutely. I mean, my training is through an institute in Colorado, which is the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. So I was
Mm-hmm.
trained there in eating psychology, but also in the mind body nutrition. And this is a very, very big piece. We are constantly being told what to eat and when to eat, but I
Mm-hmm.
believe we're being taught enough and we're not speaking enough about how we eat and
Mm.
why we eat. But everything that you've just shared is so, so powerful because our bodies will do so much better. They digest, as you said, they assimilate, so they know how to use the nutrition really, really well. And then, as you said, the metabolization. So
Yep.
it's powerful information, and it's just taking these little doses of time where I can say, you know what, yes, I need to be here, but you know what, I owe it to myself to take, please, can we not take 5 or 10 minutes just to sit down? And I mean,
Yeah,
that's not even a lot of time, but we owe that to ourselves. And I believe we also have to encourage that around the table with our children too.
absolutely. I have one rule in my house, and we've had it since the kids were like little: no electronics at the table. There's no TV, there's no cell phones, there's no tablets, there's no computers, there's no nothing. And I know my kids always try and sneak it to the table, but immediately we're like, no, you're here with us.
Mhm.
We're here with you. Let's engage in that conversation, right? Let's talk to each other. And I have found the best conversations we have been at the table when there's nothing distracting them, and we have the best conversations. And that also becomes a part of that experience when you're eating. And it's about that, connection that you were talking about earlier.
Yes, and so that's the thing around it, right? So um, the question is, we've lost this. We've lost this in our households,
Yeah.
sports activities, different hours of people's work, and I think that everybody's just really tired and exhausted, and it's just
Mm,
easier sometimes to be entertained by the television and kind of zone
mm,
out.
yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I think we owe it to our families to even come back to, even if it is just one meal a week that we eat together, to hold on to some of those traditions. I know that that doesn't sound like a lot, but that could be a step in the right direction. I know I've had
Absolutely.
clients and families where it's like, no, we're not going to sit in the living room and eat our food from now on. We're actually going to sit at the table. And
Yeah.
um, they had older children that were in their teens, but then the mother and the daughter started, and then soon the teenage boy decided to come and join in too, right? So
Yep.
it's powerful, and we need that. We know the power of
Absolutely.
bonding with our family members. So yeah, like we can see now that there's so many benefits that can come through having these beautiful relationships with food and coming back to some of the basics that we've lost sight of. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something as simple too as just listening to our bodies and when it's full,
Yeah, and that's
right?
a whole piece. I mean, that's one of the bigger pieces that I'm always teaching at the beginning, because if we have a lot of diet history and a lot of
Hmm.
dieting history, we have suppressed those hunger cues,
Yeah.
and we have drank a lot of water trying to not let ourselves be hungry.
Yep.
And then the other thing I want to share with that is when you're in a stress response, you shut off the cues of hunger. Again, it
Hmm.
goes back to the fact that if I'm being chased by a bear, I'm not going to stop and eat. So
Right.
if we're living in a stress state all the time, we're also not going to feel those hunger cues. But the hunger
Yeah.
cues are there for us if we listen. And as crazy as this might sound, sometimes it's actually going, well, your homework this week is actually to pay attention to what your
Yeah.
body tells you when it's hungry,
Yeah.
right? Like we have to sometimes go
Yep.
back to those bare bone basics. And just on the flip side, we have to learn to recognize, oh, what's happening with my body as I'm eating? Because if I
Hmm.
eat slow enough, like we talked about, I'm going to be able to feel those signs in my body that start to
Yeah.
tell me that I'm satisfied. And I will also
Absolutely.
say, Tracy, that when we release the food rules that say I'm not allowed to eat till this time, I won't feel like I
Yeah.
have to fill myself up so much. So it's it's beautiful and complex at the same time, but we can get there. We can always improve our relationships with food on some level, and we owe that to
Absolutely.
ourselves and to our children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And do it without judgment.
Hmm.
Do it with only curiosity.
Hmm.
Because you can't be judgmental of yourself and be curious at the same time. It's the
Totally.
same with the sympathetic comparison. You can't do it at the
Hmm.
same time.
Yep.
And once you also look at it from a more curious state as opposed to a judgmental state, the shame, blame game that we love to say, that, you've had that chocolate bar and then you're like beating yourself up forever and ever. Amen.
Hmm.
Get rid of that.
Hmm.
Just be curious. Why did I go there
Hmm.
as opposed to having that banana that's sitting there?
Yeah.
So what am I feeling? What is happening right now that made me go in this direction and not this direction? And that is so important. So do it with curiosity.
It's
And then all
beautiful.
that other stuff goes away.
It's beautiful, and it's going to give us the freedom to be able to not, because if we come with judgment, we're not going to be able to find and allow those answers to surface. One of my golden questions
Yeah.
always is, what are you wanting to feel after you've
Mhm.
done eating this food? Because we have to
Yeah.
understand that the food is giving us some type of need. It's meeting a need on some level. So
Right.
am I needing to feel more seen? Am I needing to feel more loved? Like there's so many reasons that we have these voids, and that's what it comes down to, is giving ourselves permission to say. And that's why we have to learn, Tracy, also, is to be able to not, like, we have to learn how to sit with our feelings. We have to learn how to
Yeah.
sit with those feelings and see what shows up. That's where the answers are going to come from, and we can do that.
Absolutely.
Like we can do that for sure.
Well, it's funny. People are very afraid of what's going to happen when they sit with their feelings.
Hmm.
Because there's a whole generation out there of Gen Xers, and I've talked about this on other shows, that our job was basically to stifle our feelings.
Hmm.
You weren't, you didn't have any way to show, because it was shown as a weakness.
Absolutely.
right? If you
Absolutely.
cried, if you know, suck it up, buttercup was like a favorite saying of people. And so a lot of people are afraid to show emotion because of what's going to happen. It's like, it's opening Pandora's box. Like, oh my God, if I show emotion, I'm going to like crack or something. And so,
yeah, and it's because we've been told that there's good emotions and there's bad emotions, and we don't let people see the bad emotions. Many don't even know more emotions than like love or, you know, like happiness or sadness. Like there's so many emotions that that we need to be able to give ourselves permission to feel. And it starts by recognizing that for some of us, and allowing them. That's why I truly believe, like, I don't like surface level conversation. Like, I love vulnerability. I love talking about feelings, because that's what heals people, right? Is being able to talk about that. We've buried so much. So talk about everything that we've pushed down and suppressed in our bodies, and how harmful that is to our health. Imagine if we allowed that stuff to start to surface a little bit with people that we feel safe with, which, you know, that's one of the things I love about the work that I do is I really, because I've lived this life, there's no judgment. There's zero judgment. I just want you to be able to have a safe space to start to talk. And I understand it. So we need those people in our life that will meet us and love us unconditionally.
Yes. And meet us where we are. Yeah. We need more people definitely like that. How do you think the younger generation can get to that place with all the pressures of social media?
Yeah, well, and so I have two teenagers. I have a daughter who's going to be 19 and a son who's 17. And I know my daughter and I have gotten, you know, the pandemic's been tough. So we talk a lot about feelings and emotions. So I want to start by saying that I really believe it starts with us as parents, to be able to model that to our children, to have those safe spaces to talk. And, you know, if as far as the children and the teens go, I think we absolutely have to be able to be understanding and educated that what we see on social media is not real, and who we choose to follow and what we choose to watch will have some type of impact on us. But honestly, I believe that that's why the role models, the teachers, the parents, the physicians, because even when a physician will judge a child, you know, I've heard more than hundreds of stories about judgment from physicians to children who are still young and whose bodies are still changing, who are being told. So I really believe that it's
medical bias. That's what it's called. Medical bias. Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, I think the children will be more set up for success when they have really good foundations to grow up in, and that our children will continue to have safe spaces where they can talk. I'm a huge advocate for our children having therapists or our children having support groups. Like, we need that. We want our children growing up that it's okay to talk about your feelings, and it's important to talk about your feelings. That's
it's okay
how this is
to not change. Be okay. Absolutely. Because I think that's important for people to hear, that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm really sad today, and this is why. Or I'm really angry at this, and this is why. You know, and I think that normalizing those things, we all struggle at times in our lives with mental health issues, and normalizing that, I think, is huge.
Absolutely. And I mean, mental health, living with mental health is a very big piece with the food relationship. Like, I would say anxiety, depression, they go hand in hand, because again, it's like, I can't be in these emotions, so I'm going to seek some support and comfort through food.
Exactly.
Like, everything's tied together. And so if we can learn coping skills, if we can learn to be okay with our feelings and have support where it's needed, you know, it makes things a lot easier. And then we as human beings can extend more kindness and understanding to each other when we normalize all of this. And we learn we learn how to sit in a room with somebody who wants to have a cry, and we don't run from it. Right? Like,
I think part of that, Well, no, and I think part of that is people are afraid of saying like the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't even need to say anything. You just need to be there, hold space for them.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Make it a safe place for them to just cry it out. Sometimes, like we don't, like you said, we don't need to fix everything. Just hold space.
Yeah.
And they
And
will
quite
tell you.
honestly, absolutely. And quite honestly, people don't want to be fixed sometimes. I have had people say, I just want to sit in this. Like
Yeah,
I don't want advice. And that's why I always believe like asking, like, do you want some support today, or are you just wanting a safe space to talk this out? Like, you know, I
exactly.
think giving people that permission and to ask that is important.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think holding space for people and just, I call it, you know, do you want to vent or what are we doing?
Exactly.
That's what I say. Are we venting? Are we solving? What are we doing? Because then it tells you where you are and what you need to be for that person. Let them guide you into where they are in that time.
I love it.
So
It's
important.
perfect. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I'm so happy you joined me today to talk about this topic. I think it's a huge topic and more people need to talk about it. We need to normalize being within our feelings. So I really thank you so much, Kim, for joining me on this episode and talking about this.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for having me on. I enjoyed it too.
Is there a way people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm very active on Instagram and Facebook. My Instagram handle is at Kim Basler _food freedom. And the Facebook.
Ooh,
And then
I
my
like that.
Yeah. And then my
I like that.
You like it, eh?
I do.
Food freedom is letting go of the guilt and the shame and the food rules and being able to find your own way to eat.
Love
and
it.
then my website's kimbasler.com. So it's I've got lots of different ways that people work with me. I've got a beautiful membership community for movement, coaching, all of it, mindset work. I'm here to help. I'm here to help. So thank you so much, Tracy. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Guys, if you want to work with Kim, there it is. We'll put it in the comments at the end of the, for those on Facebook, we'll put it in the comments for you. And you guys listening on the podcast, you just heard how to get a hold of her. And thank you so much, Kim. If you think anybody would benefit from this episode, like, share with as many people as possible. And we'll see you next time on What Has Changed Your Life.